things that might be important instead of discarding them automatically. And in that sense, um, when we think about intuition or whatever, I know when someone tells me something, I don't know that it's factually true, but if someone tells me something that they really believe, it's their depth and their experience that this is true to their core, I feel it as a tingling or a uplifting in my spine, almost like someone lifting me up. And someone could say that that's metaphysical or energetic, and maybe it is. I kind of believe that it is, but it's also that idea that our nervous system and our processing mind is opening that door enough to let that information in, and we have to integrate it somehow. So it's giving us a different experience. But yeah, moving us into part two, because we've normalizing the idea of channeling. How do we integrate that idea with some of these things that do feel more metaphysical, or some of these experiences of people that Lee Harris, Bashar, those are the two that jump to mind for me. I'm sure there's more we could come up with, but like, what are you all's thoughts on the more mystical and magical aspects of channeling?
For me, I've always been fascinated in, well, when I say always, I mean probably since I was in my 20s. So it's been quite a while now. I started reading the Seth material a long time ago, and there was something that rang so true for me, even though I couldn't really wrap my head around it at the time. There was something that was connecting to it in a different way. It was probably my heart. Um, and ever since then, I mean, the idea of channeling like that, the sort of hardcore I'll use has been fascinating to me, and I love it. I do use a lot of discernment now. Now, like you were just talking, Tim, I do really check in with my body when I'm listening, and I do know when things feel true for me and when they don't, when somebody is channeling. And I just, it's all part of their own process too. And whether, so I just take what works and then I leave the rest. But I very much am excited to see more and more of it coming into sort of mainstream, I think, especially with Lee Harris. He has millions of people who listen to his energy updates every single month.
It just touches that like frequency and tone for me, right? Like we all love Lee Harris because we resonate with him and the beings, the Z's that he brings through him. And he's so grounded. It's like
Mm,
so refreshing. And Bashar the same.
yeah.
It's being able to feel and see and know that there isn't any. I feel like, from the Seth material to now, what a ride it's been in the world of channeling, right? I mean, the woman that channeled Seth, her name isn't coming to mind. But she was doing it in her living room. It wasn't safe to be on a stage like Bashar or Lee. um, and how all of us have grown up with that programming that like this energy, these people that are bringing in beings, what does that mean? And we sit in a lot of question around that. Yet if we can be in our body, I think about Lee and his teachings being that, like embodiment is our purpose.
Mm.
Our body is the portal. And so if we're having this awakening psychically, spiritually, whatever, and we don't have a connection to our body, then things cannot feel good. And we don't have that discernment, like you're saying, Stephanie, to be like, that's not me. That doesn't feel like love, or that doesn't feel grounded. That feels toxic, or that feels, whatever it is. So that's why I'm such a huge advocate for embodiment, because I feel like for so often, for probably thousands of years, right, it's only been safe to really do the channeling from the third eye and above,
Mm.
our bodies haven't been safe, especially the female body. So
I
there's a lot.
really, I really love that idea of channeling as an embodiment practice too. Like going back to the normalizing a little bit, that idea of those experiences that we have in nature or something where you feel so connected to the trees and to the water and to the present moment. Where, I mean, I think, at least for myself and a lot of people I know, that that's where they have the most spiritual experiences is when it's not really the words that are coming through, it's something that lives in your experience, your physical experience, um, and that you feel in your nervous system. And yeah, I love that idea. And then
And
you,
I, oh,
yeah,
I'm sorry, Tim.
that's
Go
okay.
ahead. I was
Well,
just going to speak to the nervous system thing just very quickly. I apologize for interrupting. But just that I have not felt safe in my nervous system for so long. And when I finally felt that safety, that's when the stuff really started to kick off for me. So, yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
yeah, I I'm thinking about flow states and even thinking about watching someone like Lee Harris or Bashar or Abraham Hicks too. Like someone could question what they're connecting to, but I think it'd be very hard to like listen to some of those, especially like thinking about Abraham Hicks and some of those uh what would you call them? Not performances, but where they're on a stage and answering someone's questions. And it's clear that it's resonating for them. And this person is just talking and going and going and going, and everything that's coming out is making sense. Like, and we talked about the telepathy tapes recently too, and that idea of this field of knowing being out there that these kids are able to connect to. Like, I just wonder, I wonder what that is when someone can get into a state where that critical mind is so offline that all of this access to this information and this knowing and this guidance and this connecting points and making sense of it all just flows and just continues to flow. And I know I've probably had that experience. I'm sure we all have of being in one of those states and then something throws us a little bit and suddenly it's just gone, disconnected. So so it almost feels like you are connecting to a higher source, and sometimes you get unplugged or something throws you back into the world or into that critical mind space, whatever it is.
Sometimes I wonder if that's not all entirely our fault. Sure, it's there, it's a process of calling ourselves back home over and over again, but also and this is just a question I've had in my mind for a while, could it be an energetic thing too? Like the energies on the planet are beginning to support more of the sustained presence for all of us if we're here for it, you know what I mean? Like if we're available for it. But that it hasn't always been that way, and that it might become even easier as we move through this transition. And that's just something I've thought about for the last few months, and I'm just curious, does that resonate for either one of you?
Yeah, it brings me to the consciousness scale. And it's like, if you haven't Googled the consciousness scale, now is the time to pause.
Yeah.
Because when you really understand that when fear and shame are driving our body, we aren't in flow state. Like I don't want to say it's impossible. It's just we're being bombarded with lower frequency, which we can go to the grocery store and be hit with that energy. And when we look at the chakra system, the lower chakras are 0 to 7. And so it's also that, like, this is why, healing is so important. Inner child work, breath work, hypnotherapy, creative outlets of all kinds, because those lower chakras, we want them to be open and vibrating in these beautiful colors so that we can stay, in attunement and alignment and connected to the earth. That's the other chakra that sometimes we miss in the metaphysical world, is that the earth chakra, it's like the lights are on in this room because they're plugged into the grid. we are energy and frequency. And if we aren't plugged into the grid, we're only getting partial information.
Hmm.
I don't know if this is a good thing to throw in or not, but it's in our misfit title, you know, the I for indigo. Just thinking about how we are moving in, like there is this shift. We all feel it, we all see it, we talk about it. And then you throw in something like that idea that people are coming into this world a little bit more online now, or potentially even in waves. You know, what the purpose of that is, you know, this idea of light workers and all of these healers. But I'm just thinking in this, thinking about some of these videos you see now of kids that are 12 years old or maybe even younger being musical savants or just being so talented or like I'm always amazed when I see these young kids who are that young who are playing blues music and it's not just playing the scales, it's soulful. It is like heartfelt. You feel it just like you would. And it's like I've always had it in my mind, you know, somebody who had to be a good blues player, you have to go through it. You know, to be able to put that kind of emotion and feeling into the world, you have to have some kind of experience to base that on. And here are these kids who are just channeling that in unbelievable ways. Like, what does that say about the nature of our reality, about what we're bringing in with us, where we were before this, where we're going after this? You know, it's just unreal some of the things that are happening in the world, and some of them are happening with such frequency that it's very easy for us to ignore that or disregard it or even normalize that when it's not. I don't know. I mean, maybe it is normal, but it's a new definition of normal, right?
Hmm.
Um, yeah. I don't know where I was going with that, just kind of presencing.
Parents are making it safe enough. It's like there's the parents to those children that have obviously created space where they can be safe enough to stay with themselves and bring who they were in. It's also like just the thought that came.
Yeah.
The three of us would have brought all that we are. I tell people all the time, like if our parents would have had the guidebook on how to raise a magical child or, these children that are savants, like how much different our world would be.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And I also think about all the stories I've heard over the last couple of decades, where I've, used creativity as a tool to tap in. And I hear people say, I'm shut down creatively because my art teacher told me that I wasn't doing it. I wasn't being creative correctly. Like, or your kindergarten teacher says, the sky is green, is not green, it's blue. And so you've shut down since kindergarten. And just how I do feel that slowly shifting. And you're right. I mean, like when there is more support and there's more awareness from the people who we look to sort of move through the world. I mean, that's incredible as well.
And it's Chiron that brings the indigo, to which Chiron, is a star system that's being channeled and bringing the indigos, with the elements of ADHD and neurodivergent energy. And you think about all of the things that all of us that have ADHD or are autistic, and like our school experience was not good for the most part. I was very bored a lot of the time, or so we have those, like you're saying, like teacher imprints and, the world trying to make us be something that we're not.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm coming back to the music thing, even thinking about like if, and I know it's a mixed bag. There's a mixed blessing technology and everything that we have access to now because you have to sort through so many things and there's so much, you know, conflicting information and things. But coming back to music, um, and I'm scared to even think about how long American Idol has been around because it feels like it hasn't been that long, and they're probably telling me there's 50 seasons of it or something now. It's like, what does that say about the passing of time? But um, thinking about some of the kids that are coming onto these shows now, 15, 16, 17-year-old kids who are absolutely amazing. And I have to think that part of that is because they've had access to YouTube and Spotify and Pandora and the even watching American Idol. These kids are growing up with that show, and really what they're getting is access to seeing what's possible. And if they see what's possible, their belief alters in such a way that they can believe it's possible for them. And next thing you know, they're bringing in this level of musicianship that didn't exist. Not, and someone can argue about what we like more. I still like my 70s music, but that idea of like the level of talent that is coming in, I think is based on that idea of people seeing what the spectrum is, what's possible in their belief, allowing them to be able to really channel that to bring that in. And that's only getting better and better. I mean, the things that people are doing now is unreal.
It reminds me of the TED Talk, the Ken Robinson Do Schools Kill Creativity TED Talk. So I just want to like
Mhm.
plug that because if you've never watched it,
Oh,
for your inner creative little one, um, it's such an eye-opening experience. I could go into it, but I think we're probably running out of time.
yeah. I will. I'll make sure to post the link to that because that's such a great talk. When we post this, I'll put the link in the little blog somewhere. Yeah.
I'd love to make a plug, uh, if that's okay, for Creative Nectar because we had a podcast and we did one called Art Scars, and it talks about the shutting down of our creativity, and it was so moving. My co-host Jenny and I were both in tears. So it's something that definitely, it's free to check out or whatever, but yeah.
The great podcast. Yeah, we'll put a link to that too. So, yeah. Well, thank you all. This has been fun. Yeah.
Yeah, and we hope to do more of these conversations over on our Patreon account. So look for that. Look for that. The link will be below, I'm sure.
See you there.